The first thing I remember was the sound of the heart monitor flatlining. That long, dreadful tone. Then a jolt. Not emotional, electric. Like 1,000 needles shoved through my chest all at once. I don't remember screaming. I just remember the silence right before everything came back. When I opened my eyes, I didn't know what year it was. I couldn't move my mouth. My throat was dry, like I'd swallowed gravel and it settled in my lungs. Light buzzed above me and flickering, yellow tubes. That smell, bleach and sweat, hit me like a wall. I blinked at a blurry ceiling, then at the face that leaned into my vision. His name tag read, Carlos. A nurse. Young, brown-eyed, kind face, but it was panic I saw on him that morning. Panic and disbelief. "You're back," he whispered. Then called for help. They said I flatlined for 11 seconds. It doesn't sound like much, not even half a minute. But when you're dead for any stretch of time, even seconds change everything. They stabilized me, monitored me, stuck me with more tubes than I care to remember. And still, not a single familiar voice. Not one call. Not even a card. Carlos hovered near my bed, checking machines and pretending not to look worried. He tried to speak gently, like I might shatter if he said something too loud. I gathered enough, strength to croak out 2 words. "My girls?" He paused. Too long. That silence was a whole answer in itself. "Just rest, Mrs. Whitaker," he said, tucking the blanket a little tighter around me. He smiled kindly, but it was the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Later that night, long after the shift, "Change," I heard him again. I wasn't supposed to. The curtain was drawn, and he thought I was asleep, but I heard the phone call. "Yes, ma'am," he said quietly. "She stabilized." "Yeah. No, she's conscious now." "Would you like to speak to her?" A pause, then, "Got it. Just thought you'd want to know." I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. No one was coming. I was in the ICU for 8 days. That's 192 hours. Not one visit, not one call, not even a text on the hospital landline they left beside my bed. On the 5th day, a nurse left a folded piece of paper beside my pillow. I didn't recognize the handwriting at first. It was stiff, rushed, a note scribbled on the back of a boarding pass. "Gone to Maui for 12 days. Hope you're better when we get back. Love, Kelsey and Aaron. Maui." They left for a tropical vacation while I was hooked to machines, while doctors weren't sure if I'd make it through the night. I stared at that note until the ink blurred. I didn't cry. There was nothing left in me for crying. Just a growing weight in my chest that no medicine could dull. By the time I was discharged, I was walking, barely. Carlos offered to wheel me out. I could tell he was embarrassed. He looked down at the ground most of the time, hands fiddling with the brake on the chair like he didn't know what to say. No one came to pick me up. The hospital arranged for a transport van. The driver never even asked if someone was meeting me at home. When we pulled up to the house, my house, I noticed something immediately. The ceramic frog by the porch was there, but the key inside it wasn't. I sat on the front step in my discharge clothes and hospital slippers for nearly 20 minutes, legs throbbing, until the door finally opened. It wasn't Kelsey. It wasn't Aaron. It was Rick, my son-in-law, holding a Starbucks cup and blinking like I'd shown up from the grave. He stammered, "Oh, you're home? I mean, we were gonna come tomorrow." I didn't answer. I just walked past, him, gripping the doorframe so I wouldn't fall. And what I saw inside? It wasn't my home anymore. The furniture had been moved. My wedding photos were gone from the mantel. Boxes lined the walls, some labeled donate and guest room. The dining table, the one where Frank used to carve the turkey every Thanksgiving, now held a real estate flyer. Charming southern home. Ideal for young families. It was my house, my photos, my wallpaper, and somehow I was already being erased. My hand shook as I gripped the back of the dining chair. That's when I saw the folder. It was open on the kitchen counter. Legal documents, power of attorney, and there it was, my signature. I recognized it, dated 2 years back, from when I had minor surgery and was so high on morphine I could barely spell my own name. Kelsey had pushed the papers in front of me, saying it was just insurance stuff. I believed her. Now they were using it to clean me out. I didn't faint. I didn't scream. I just walked to the pantry, found Erin's old iPad still plugged in, and opened her messages. She hadn't even logged out. House goes on MLS Monday. If she's not back, we start the assisted living intake. Let's be honest. Mom was never good at boundaries. That's what my daughter wrote. My own blood, not a mistake. Not poor communication, a decision. They'd decided to delete me. It's a strange thing, walking into your own house and realizing you no longer live there. Everything was familiar. The walls, the shape of the hallway, the creak in the third stair. And yet, everything was wrong. The couch was pushed to the opposite wall. The rug I'd chosen with Frank was gone, replaced by something beige and modern, like it came straight out of a discount catalog. The mantel was bare. My family photos, the wedding day, Kelsey's first recital, Erin's graduation, all boxed up and stacked like unwanted memories. I stood there, gripping the doorknob like it might hold me up, my knees trembling. Rick kept rambling behind me, something about delays and jet lag and how they meant to check in tomorrow. He never offered me a chair, never asked how I'd gotten home or if I needed help carrying the small plastic hospital bag that held all my belongings. Then I saw it, on the dining room table, a flyer. Charming southern home, ideal for young families. Coming soon. There was a picture of my house, my shutters, my rose bush in full bloom. I blinked. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone had delivered it by accident. But no. The details were all correct. Square footage, school district, the lot size. My name wasn't on it anywhere. That was the first real slap. I turned slowly, heart pounding like it had back in the ICU, and stepped into the kitchen. The counter was cluttered, not with groceries or dishes, but with paperwork. A file folder half open, filled with documents I never remembered signing. Power of attorney, bank authorizations, home transfer assessments. And there it was again, my signature, sloppy, tilted. From the time I was recovering from hip surgery, Kelsey had brought me forms in the hospital, said it was insurance paperwork. I was on morphine. I signed without thinking. Now, that signature had been weaponized. The key, betrayal wasn't loud. It wasn't sharp. It was slow and crawling. A heaviness in my stomach, a buzzing in my ears. I moved through the house like a ghost, touching furniture that used to be mine, passing closets that now held storage bins labeled Mom's stuff. In Daunain, the guest bedroom, which they apparently renamed the staging area, I found my own clothes folded in neat piles, some in plastic donation bags. My dresser was empty. My perfume bottles gone. They weren't waiting for me to recover. They were waiting for me to vanish. I sat down on the edge of the stripped bed, my hands shaking, and picked up Erin's old iPad from the charger. She always used it to check Pinterest recipes. She'd never logged out, and that's how I saw everything. The text threads, the group chat named Next Steps. Erin. Once Mom's house sells, we'll finally have room to breathe. Kelsey. If she's still in recovery, we can move forward, with assisted living intake. The sooner the better. Erin. She won't care. She doesn't even use half the rooms. Kelsey. Honestly, she's been a hoarder of her own grief since Dad died. Erin. Boundaries, babe. This is what boundaries look like. I read those words over and over until they blurred together. Boundaries. That's what they called it. Taking the key out of the frog, erasing me from the home I paid off by working 2 jobs after their father passed, boxing up my life without asking. That was boundaries. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I was done. I walked back to the kitchen, opened the drawer by the sink, and pulled out the small green notebook I'd used since 1998. My handwritten ledger of passwords, account numbers, pins. Then I reached into the back of the pantry and found the shoebox, the one with emergency cash wrapped in old birthday cards. I tucked it under my arm, walked out of the kitchen, and closed the iPad with a click. They thought I'd been erased. They forgot I taught them how to write their names. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the paperwork across the room. I didn't even tell Rick I'd seen it, because yelling would have made me look unstable, and unstable women lose their homes. Instead, I waited. The next morning, after Rick left for some vague errand, probably a hardware store trip that didn't exist, I walked down the hallway like a ghost in my own body, quiet, measured, every step a choice. I didn't go to my old room. I went to the bedroom they had already begun to stage, the one where they'd folded my clothes like donations, the one that still smelled like new paint and artificial lavender from some discount diffuser, and that's where I made my decision. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a family caught in poor timing or communication gaps. This was a removal, an erasure. I picked up the iPad again and kept reading. Not because I needed more proof, but because I needed fuel. I needed to burn the last pieces of hope that this could be repaired. Erin, when she's in the facility, we'll finally have breathing room. Kelsey, don't forget to clear her closet. She's attached to useless junk. Erin, we're doing the right thing. She'd never admit it, but this is best for everyone. Room to breathe. Useless junk, doing the right thing. They talked about me like I was expired milk, something past its date and starting to stink. I closed the iPad and felt my breath steady. Then I made one phone call. James Pewitt, an old student of mine from when I taught adult GED classes years ago. He had the kind of memory that held on to people, the way some men remember plays from high school football games. James remembered everyone who ever believed in him. He picked up on the second. Ring. Ms. Whitaker? He said, cautious but surprised. I didn't even try to soften it. James, they're trying to sell my house. He went quiet, listened as I explained everything. The power of attorney from 2 years ago, the forged real estate listing, the texts I'd found, the donation bags, the locked front door. When I finished, he exhaled slow. You're not the first, he said. But we can fight this. He had me come in the same afternoon. He even paid for a car to bring me to his office. Small, tidy, tucked inside a brick building that used to be a dentist's clinic. He walked me through everything. Explained that the version of power of attorney they were using didn't cover real estate transfer without explicit, conscious consent. That meant as long as I acted quickly, I could stop everything before the sale went public. Legally, you're still in charge, he said, sliding the document back across the table. They just thought you wouldn't fight. They forgot who the hell raised them. I signed the documents to revoke the power of attorney. We reasserted my legal autonomy, filed for full control of my estate, and then, with James's help, relisted the house under my name. But I didn't want to save the house. I didn't want to reclaim it and play happy family in rooms that had already been disinfected of my presence. I wanted to sell it before they could. I wanted to empty it before they ever saw the profit, and I wanted to disappear. That night, I stood alone in the living room where we used to put the Christmas tree. There was still a faint dent in the carpet from the couch they'd moved. I looked at that space and told myself, This is the last time I will look back. The next morning, I moved fast. James had a locksmith come by to change every lock. Rick showed up later that afternoon to get his tools, and I spoke to him through the Ring camera. "Come get your junk. You have 10 minutes. After that, it's going in the trash." He didn't argue. He just came. Quiet, guilty. Left the side gate open on his way out like the coward he was. I boxed everything I wanted to keep. A few photo albums, Frank's old watch, a box of childhood drawings that Kelsey and Aaron made when they still remembered how to love. I sold everything else. Furniture, electronics, the antique buffet my mother left me, all of it, 11 days. That's how long it took to find a cash buyer, no contingencies, no inspections, just done. Then I walked into the bank, closed every account they had access to, opened a new one under a variation of my name, Nora Wittman, using my grandmother's maiden name. I cashed out the rest in money orders, tucked them into a travel pouch I kept under the passenger seat of my car, the same silver Corolla no one ever paid attention to. I wrote 2 letters, one for Kelsey, one for Aaron. Not bitter, not blaming, just brief. You taught me who you really are. Thank you for the education. I left them on the kitchen counter next to a paper plate and the crumbs of the peanut butter sandwich I'd eaten for dinner. Before I left, I unplugged the fridge, took the spare key from the ceramic frog, and slid the garage door shut for the last time. By sunrise, I was on I-95, heading north with no GPS, no destination, and no one looking out for me but me. I wasn't running. I was removing myself. There's a difference. They wanted a life without me. Now, they had one. By the time I crossed the Maine state line, the sky was the color of cold dishwater, gray, quiet, safe. I didn't have a destination, just a sense that I needed to go where no one knew my name and no one cared to ask. That's how I ended up in Elkport. Population so small it wasn't listed on the welcome sign. Just a billboard that read, Elkport Library, voted friendliest in Maine. That was enough. I found a rundown motor inn behind a gas station and paid cash for a week. The clerk didn't ask for ID, just looked at me over his glasses, asked if I smoked, and handed me a room key with chipped paint. I told him my name was Nora Wittman, retired librarian from Roanoke, Virginia, widowed, childless, looking for peace. And the scary thing? That version of me came so easy. No one questioned a quiet old woman with sad eyes and soft hands. In a town like that, people assume you're running from something, and they respect you more for it. 3 days in, I found a tiny trailer behind a bait shop, fully furnished, $580 a month. No lease, just cash in an envelope on the first. The man who showed it to me, Jim, asked 2 questions. You smoke? I didn't. You good with raccoons? I lied. I said yes to both and signed nothing. I started buying groceries from the local mom and pop store. Canned soup, crackers, bananas that were always too green. Then, one afternoon, I walked into the Elkport Library. The smell of old paper hit me like a childhood lullaby. Rows of forgotten books, the comforting hush of solitude. I asked the librarian if they needed volunteers. 2 days a week, shelving returns. No pay, just peace. By the end of my first week, I had a name badge. Nora, volunteer. That's where I met Lily, 27, overworked, polite to the point of exhaustion. She worked double shifts at the diner and still made time to read with her daughter every night. Her daughter was Emma, 6 going on 30. All questions and tangled ponytails. She took to me like a missing puzzle piece. By the second week, she started calling me Nana Nora. I didn't correct her. Lily said I reminded Emma of her great-grandmother, who'd passed the year before. And when I offered to help with babysitting, Lily didn't flinch. She just looked at me and said, "You're good people." It wasn't true. Not completely, but I wanted it to be. I kept a small notebook under my pillow, a list of every lie I'd told. Nora Whitman, born in 1945 from Roanoke, VA widowed. Husband, Trinine, Franklin Whitman. Librarian, no children. Allergic to penicillin. True. Baptized Lutheran, probably. I wrote them down not because I was lying maliciously, but because I needed to remember who I'd become. I left Eleanor Whitaker back in Charleston, along with the couch, the wedding photos, the daughters who packed me up before I'd even left this world. But every now and then, in the quiet hours of night, I'd wake up breathless, not afraid of someone hurting me, afraid of someone recognizing me. I didn't look at the news, didn't check social media, didn't answer unknown numbers. I lived like a shadow. And for a while, it worked. 2 months passed. I became a fixture at the library. The new old lady, who always smiled, always shelved her returns in perfect Dewey Decimal order. I taught Emma to read past her grade level. She loved it when I gave her star stickers for sounding out big words. I laughed again. I cooked small meals. I started humming while washing dishes. It was enough. Then came Emma's birthday party. Nothing big, just a folding table at the VFW hall across from the diner. Store-bought cupcakes, mismatched paper plates, streamers held up with duct tape. I helped Lily hang decorations. I sat beside Emma while she opened her gifts. One of the other moms, young, blonde, obsessed with Instagram, recorded a 30-second video on her phone. Just a short clip. Emma unwrapping a glitter backpack while I handed her the card. I didn't think twice. 3 days later, Lily burst into the library. Her phone shook in her hand. "Nora," she said, breathless. "You need to see this. Right now." I took the phone. And there I was. The birthday clip had been reposted. Not by the blonde mom, but by a mommy blog, then a TikTok account that did viral elder justice stories. The caption read, "Found her. Grandma Ghost is alive and well. In Maine. She changed her name. She's got a new family. And we love her even more now." The clip was getting thousands of views per hour. Comments flooded in. "She's a legend. Good for her. Abandonment survivor energy. Did she really fake her death?" Some praised me. Some accused me. Some wanted answers. But the worst part? The post tagged Elkport, Maine. My heart dropped, like that flatline monitor all over again. I sat down behind the return desk, shaking. Emma's laughter rang from the children's corner. Lily kneeled beside me. "What's going on?" she whispered. I looked her in the eyes. "My name's not Nora," I said quietly. "It's Eleanor. And I didn't run away from my family. I escaped them." She didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just nodded, and then said, "Okay, so what do we do now?" By morning, the video had crossed 1 million views. They were calling me Grandma Ghost, memes, hashtags, podcasts dissecting every detail of my story, even the ones they got wrong. One person claimed I faked the stroke. Another said I must have been secretly rich. A woman from Kentucky posted a tearful video, saying I gave her the courage to leave her neglectful children. There were theories, praise, outrage. I wasn't just a person anymore. I was content. Lily tried to shield me from it, but I saw enough. Erin's face popped up in a local Charleston news segment. She looked thin, pale. Her voice trembled as she clutched a tissue and told the camera. We thought she was recovering. We thought we had more time. No one believed her. The internet doesn't reward late apologies. Clips of her statement were edited into videos showing beach scenes from Maui. The caption, "They went on vacation while Mom flatlined." It went viral. Again, Kelsey fared worse. Someone leaked screenshots of her texts, the ones I'd read on the iPad. "Boundaries, babe," became a punchline across TikTok. Reporters started hovering outside their homes. Elder justice groups posted petitions demanding an investigation. Their lives unraveled in slow, humiliating pieces. And I watched from the library break room, sipping weak coffee, heart pounding, but hands steady. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt invisible. And I liked it that way. I stayed off the internet for a few days, hoping it would burn itself out. But that hope vanished the moment I looked up from shelving books and saw a silver Toyota parked across the street. South Carolina plates. I didn't need to see her face. I knew it was Erin. She parked like someone still trying to earn approval. Too straight, too perfect. She got out holding a paper coffee cup and stood by the library entrance like we were meeting for brunch, not confronting a ghost. I watched her from behind the stacks for 5 minutes before walking outside. She didn't speak at first, just stared. Then she said softly, "Mom, please don't walk away." The word mom hit me like cold wind through an open door. I hadn't heard it in months, not from her, not without entitlement behind it. But I didn't move. She stepped closer. "You're not a ghost. You're not done. You can come home. We can fix this." I looked her straight in the eye. "I already had the funeral," I said. "You just weren't there." Her face cracked. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "You left me in a hospital bed alone. You filed paperwork while I was unconscious. You sold my house out from under me and called it help." "We didn't know," she said, voice small. "We thought—" "No," I snapped. "You did know. You just didn't care." She started crying. Not loud, not performative. Tight. Restrained sobs like she was trying to keep the breakdown off camera. I let her. "I'm not coming back, Erin," I said. "I found something better. A life that doesn't require pretending we were ever okay." She looked broken. Shattered. But not surprised. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she whispered. "You weren't." We stood in silence as the wind rustled the oak trees overhead. Finally, she asked, "Is there anything I can do?" I shook my head. "No, but you can stop looking." She reached for me. Maybe for a hug, maybe just to touch my arm. And I stepped back. "I'm not a thing you get to pick back up. This isn't a sitcom. This is my life. And you lost your place in it." Her lip quivered. "I miss you," I said nothing. Because the version of me she missed, the one who'd forgive anything, who'd babysit for free and co-sign the loans and quietly absorb every cut, that version of me didn't survive the ICU. That version died 11 seconds at a time. What stood before her now wasn't Eleanor Whitaker. It was Nora, and Nora owed her nothing. She turned, walked back to the car, but glanced over her shoulder one last time, like a child who'd just been sent away without dessert. She didn't try to argue again, didn't beg, didn't yell. She just drove away, careful not to speed, still pretending to be in control. I watched the car disappear down Main Street, then went back inside. Behind the counter, I picked up Emma's crayon drawing she'd left for me earlier that day. A smiling stick figure with curly hair and the words Nana Nora written in shaky letters above it. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I smiled. Because this little life, this quiet trailer, this shelf of borrowed books, this child who called me Nana without knowing the weight of that word, it was real, and it was mine. 3 days after Erin left, a manila envelope appeared in the return slot at the library. No return address, no name, just Nora in handwriting I recognized. Instantly. Kelsey. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on my kitchen table beside a half-finished puzzle and a cold cup of tea. It stayed there for 2 nights while I debated what to do. Open it, burn it, return it, unopened. On the 3rd night, I caved. Inside was a single piece of paper, my own handwriting. It was the ICU letter I'd written when I thought I might not make it. Scribbled on the back of a patient intake form with shaking hands and a dry mouth. If I don't wake up, just know I forgave you already. But if I do, please come. I'm scared. That letter was supposed to be given to my daughters in case I didn't survive. Carlos, the nurse, had promised to slip it into my belongings bag when no one came. And somehow they found it. But this time, the letter wasn't alone. Kelsey had written in the margins. Blue ink, tiny handwriting, half apologies, half confessions. I didn't know it was that serious. I thought Aaron would go. I'm sorry. Mom. I was scared too. Each line a fragment of something she should have said in person, but didn't. I folded the letter, tucked it into the back of my notebook, the one I used to keep my new identity straight, and wrote one more line under the fake addresses and backstories. No contact. Peace. But peace, it turns out, doesn't last forever. The next morning, the library's email inbox pinged. I almost didn't check it. I was about to log off when I saw the subject line, request for visit, Kelsey Whitaker. Her message was short, I'd like to come. Just once. No Rick, no cameras, just me. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing a reply. 1 visit. That's it. Bring the letter with you. We agreed to meet at the cemetery just outside town, not for symbolism, but for space. No one lies when they're standing next to someone who can't answer back. I arrived early and sat on a bench beside Frank's headstone. The town didn't know I buried him here. I'd quietly purchased the plot during the 2nd month I'd lived in Elkport and transferred his ashes without fanfare. It was quiet there, breezy. The grass had just been mowed. Kelsey showed up 10 minutes late. She wore a white blouse, perfect jeans, and heels that made no sense for gravel. Always overdressed when she was uncomfortable. Always checking her watch even when she had nowhere else to be. She clutched a tote bag like it was armor. When she saw me, she hesitated. Then walked slowly, deliberately, like a student approaching the teacher's desk. No hug. No hi. Just silence. She handed me the envelope and sat down at the other end of the bench, leaving 3 feet of space between us like she thought I might bite. Inside the envelope was the ICU letter again, this time with even more notes. Her guilt had grown since last time. The ink was darker, the tone more desperate. We didn't mean for it to go that far. I thought we were helping. I didn't know how to deal with watching you get weak. I read it slowly, let each scribbled thought settle like dust on stone. When I looked up, she was already crying. Silent tears. No dramatics. Just the kind that sneak down your jaw when you've run out of ways to pretend you're fine. I didn't know what to do, she whispered. You've always been so strong. I shook my head. I didn't need strength, Kelsey. I needed presence. I needed someone to show up. She nodded like she'd already said those words to herself in the mirror 100 times. You think I don't hate myself? She said. You think I sleep at night? I didn't flinch. I think you sleep better than I did when I was lying in a hospital bed, wondering why my daughters never came. She covered her mouth with her hand like the truth physically hurt. We were selfish, she said. We thought we had time. So did your father, I replied, nodding toward the headstone. We sat in silence after that. The wind tugged at the hem of her blouse. A squirrel darted across the gravel. She didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't offer it. Instead, she asked softly, Can I visit again sometime? No, I said. You had time. You used it. She nodded, not because she agreed, but because she understood. Can I write you? I thought about it. You can send letters to Lily's P.O. box, I said, but I won't promise to read them. She accepted that. When we stood up to leave, she reached for a hug. Instinct, probably. Some muscle memory from a life we both used to pretend was whole. But I stepped back, not harsh, just firm. That part of me, I said quietly, you already buried, and this time I chose the funeral. She nodded, wiped her face, and walked away. I sat back on the bench, alone again, but not empty. Not anymore. The morning after Kelsey's visit, I sat at the little table in my trailer, the one with the chipped corner and the oilcloth tablecloth that never quite laid flat, and I pulled out a fresh sheet of notebook paper. This time, I didn't write a letter to my daughters. I didn't write to Frank. I didn't write to Lily, or to Carlos, or to some vague future that might forgive me for disappearing. I wrote to myself. At the top, I wrote 4 words in blocky capital letters. You did it. You left. Then I listed what I'd let go of. A house filled with silence. A name too tied to grief, a family that forgot how to love without expecting payment. A city where I was both invisible and in the way. And then, on the other side of the page, I wrote what I'd found. Quiet mornings. Real conversations. A child's laugh that didn't come with strings, A woman named Lily who saw me for who I am. Not what I used to be. I folded the letter, slid it into an envelope, and wrote on the front in blue ink, Nora Vittman. I tucked it into the shoebox under my bed, right beside Emma's drawings, and the only photo I kept of my daughters, taken years before the word inheritance ever slipped into our family vocabulary. Then I got up, poured myself a cup of instant coffee, and started trimming the hedges outside Lily's porch. Emma was inside making a birthday card for her classmate, gluing glitter with the intense concentration only 7-year-olds possess. Lily leaned out the door and said, I told you, you don't have to do that. And I replied, I know, because wanting to help, not being expected to, made all the difference. Later that afternoon, Emma came sprinting around the side of the house, barefoot and wide-eyed, holding a chipped seashell in her tiny hand. Nana, look what I found. She held it up like a treasure, a broken sliver of the Atlantic with pink edges and a jagged base. I didn't flinch at the name anymore. Nana. It didn't feel stolen now. It felt earned. I smiled and said, It's perfect. We walked down, to the shore together, her with the shell, me with a plastic bucket, and spent an hour building something that didn't need to last, a shell tower on the edge of the sand, crooked and beautiful. The wind was crisp that day, the kind that made your sweater feel like a hug. Emma leaned against me and said, You always know how to make things better. I kissed the top of her head. That's what Nanas do. We didn't talk about Charleston. We didn't talk about names or news or past lives. We just built things out of broken pieces. That night, I sat alone by the window, the sound of crickets humming through the screen, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Stillness. Not the heavy stillness of loneliness, but the gentle kind, like water settling after a storm. I didn't check the news. I didn't open the mailbox. I didn't wonder if another letter would come. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let the internet write its own version of me. The story they tell now, the one with headlines and hashtags, that's their version. It doesn't belong to me anymore. What belongs to me is here. A town with no expectations. A trailer that smells like salt and books. A little girl who calls me by the name I chose for myself. Not Eleanor. Not a victim. Not the mother who waited, just Nora, and this time, no one gets to decide who I am but me.